Welcome back to Beyond the Hyphen. I'm Mark Lee, your host. Today, I'm very, very delighted to be joined by my county executive of Howard County, Dr. Calvin Ball. Dr. Ball, how are you?
I'm doing great, Mark. Thanks for having me.
I'm glad to hear it, and I'm very excited about our conversation. Dr. Ball, you've long served Maryland, and specifically this county of Howard County for the past almost 8 years now. And I've gotten the chance to work with you in the past. I've observed the work that you've done for this county. But for our audience, can you tell us a bit about your identity and journey into the space of politics and public service?
Well, I started off actually active with a political group, the Young Democrats of Howard County. And I actually became president of the Young Dems. And I would volunteer going to different events. And one day somebody said, hey, you know what? You should think about running for office. The current county council person is term limited and they're going to be retiring. So there'll be an open seat. At the time, I thought I will do that when I'm very old, like 40. I was 25. And so I ran for office, worked really hard, actually lost that race. Was pretty disappointed, but just stayed active, stayed involved. People started asking me to run again. So I ran. The next time around, I won. Ended up serving three terms in the Howard County Council. The youngest person ever to serve as chair. I'm the third longest serving person ever on our county council at about 13 years. Then wanted to expand my service to our community. Got elected as county executive and 2018, reelected in 2022, and I'm honored to serve as your Howard County executive.
And Dr. Ball, you said you lost that first election, but people wanted you to come back. And I think that speaks a lot on your leadership, your personality, and we'll dive into that a little bit later. It's one thing to want to lead, and it's a whole different side of things on where you want to dedicate that energy. So my next question is, why Howard County? What drew you here specifically, and what made you want to give yourself to this community?
I grew up in Baltimore County, and at the time, my parents, who grew up in Baltimore City, talked about the promise of Howard County. They talked about Columbia, the planned city, diversity, inclusion, being able to go a place where you could become your very best self. Some place that was recognized not only throughout the state, but nationally. And so when I started dating my now wife, I said, I want to live in Howard County. I want to raise our family in Howard County. I want to work and serve and grow in Howard County because that is a place where your dreams can become reality, where you can make a difference, where you can become your best selves, and where we can grow our family.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. And as a Howard County constituent, I can concur with you on that. Just looking back at your county executive role, however, you've certainly made an impact also in the county council and before. And, as county executive, how would you describe this relationship that you've had the privilege of creating with the people and even neighboring counties as well? And how do you stay connected with such a diverse constituency?
Well, Howard County is a very diverse community. And, a lot of people, when I talk not only around the state, but around the nation and the world, and they recognize that Howard County is not a majority Black county, but I'm the first Black county executive. They talk about how, why. And I talk about the promise of Howard County, that we are a diverse county with so many different backgrounds, but we recognize people who want to lead, who want to serve, want to help make sure everyone has an opportunity to grow. And as county executive, I've had the honor of being a chair of the Baltimore Metropolitan Council. I've been on the shock trauma board, helping to ensure that people are safe at some of their most dangerous and scary hours, and president of the Maryland Association of Counties, and active in the National Association of Counties, where just this year, Howard County earned 83 achievement awards, when oftentimes the average is anywhere between 1 and 10, which was more than 60% of all of the achievement awards earned throughout the entire state of Maryland.
That's really, really impressive. Looking at, right, just Maryland, even locally, how we lead as a state uh, in the national landscape. I know maybe just yesterday it was Governor Moore was appointed as the vice chair of the National Governors Association, and then you leading also in these associations of counties and county executives really sends national waves. And we'll tackle that a little bit more. But I want to tackle on this genuine connection with constituents. It can be defined in many different ways, but at the end of the day, you do by doing, you don't do by saying. So, I mean, Dr. Ball, you've helped shape, support numerous commissions and task forces during your time in office. I want to know, what's that philosophy behind the approach? How do you see these small work groups driving meaningful change?
I think everyone should have an opportunity to be heard, to be seen, to be loved. And so it has always been important to me that I give voice, especially to those who are often the voiceless, those who might either feel or seem invisible. And so whether it's someone who's part of the LGBTQIA plus community, our young people, and expanding board and commission opportunities for young people, people who are in some of our most vulnerable communities, those who English is a second language, or just might feel like they haven't had a seat at the table previously. I want to make sure that they have a voice. It doesn't mean that we're always going to agree, but it means that we can work toward consensus. We can collaborate toward progress. We can make sure that we move farther together, because as the ancient African proverb says, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together.
Yeah, that really resembles how you've led. I think many people have run into this concrete wall of expecting really, really fast change and a really quick turnaround. However, like you said, Dr. Ball, sustainable change takes time, takes conquering obstacles as a community. And I want to shift to an area that's very deeply important to this county. We've hopped many hurdles as a county. We've made our name as a county based on this, and that's our education. We've been consistently at the top of national rankings, not just state rankings, but national rankings. Most recently, I think I saw Howard County being the third county in the entire nation with the best public schools. And a large part of that increase in recognition took place during your terms as county executive. What educational initiatives have you been most proud of, and how do you see Howard County pioneering the education sector?
So I'm an educator by training. My doctorate is in education. Before I became county executive, I spent nearly 20 years in education. I recognize that education is one of the most democratizing forces that helps catalyze all the promise that is within someone and helps them really live their best lives. And so I recognize that not only is education funding important, and that's why now we have one of the highest per pupil funding rates of the entire nation, but also the supports around education. We launched our youth engagement programming, or YEP grants, working with nonprofits. And we engaged more than 10,000 of our young people through about 40 nonprofits and before and after school initiatives. Our YES initiative, youth engagement strategies, where we have a work group of numerous people who are working with our young people on how can we help you grow to be your best selves. And then, of course, through Recreation and Parks, our Department of Community Resources and Services, and numerous other channels, always making sure that whether it's summer camps or, like I said, before and after care, or through our initiative and work with our Community Action Council, with our now early childhood education initiatives, we want to make sure that we invest, whether it's through our libraries, our community colleges, our school system, in our young people, because I recognize our young people, future. You're our future.
And I mean, every step forward is another step closer to that future. Um, and there's always more to do, right? As a county that pioneers, um, I know that you face a lot of challenges, whether it's the federal budget cuts that trickle down all the way to the county level and then into things like our education system, our um, private sector. It's been a lot to deal and maneuver with. What are or what have and are currently the primary challenges that Howard County faces, and what do you believe must be addressed in the next few years?
Well, local government is where the rubber meets the road. However, as you see with the federal government, there are a lot of education policies, whether you see with the current administration dismantling so many aspects of our federal government, including our Department of Education, or like we just talked about education. Education policy is actually a state entity. We have here in Howard County an elected Board of Education. So all of education policy is not only governed by laws at the state level, but the policies are actually derived, moved forward by our Board of Education. So as county executive, I have had to work in an environment where I have very little power per se. That's positional power, but we have the power of partnerships. We have the power of people. We have the power of purpose. And I think all of us coming together with that shared purpose as different people from different walks of life, different seats at the table can come together toward making sure that we invest, that we navigate the current milieu of challenges and turn those obstacles into opportunities for all.
County executive, you brought up how important the people were. As a follow up, how important has or how meaningful has building coalitions with uh, the LGBT community, the African American community, the Asian Pacific American community, all of the communities here in Maryland and beyond? How has that been meaningful for Howard County?
It has been meaningful, not just for the county, which, as you see in numerous other counties around the nation, there are more than 3,000 counties. There is so much division, so much negativity, so much hopelessness. However, we work toward unity, we work toward positivity, we work toward reigniting the flames of hope. And it starts with people feeling like they're seen, they're heard, they're respected, and they have an opportunity to participate and to actually move the vision forward. And so building those coalitions, making sure that people recognize that I see you and I serve you has been invaluable. And I think while we may not always agree on everything, and while sometimes there are challenging days, tough times don't last, but tough people do. And we are tougher together.
And I know Howard County is not uh, a standalone community, plays a huge role, whether that's in function or giving name for Maryland as a whole. We are the front of Maryland. I know you've mentioned previously how Howard County's role transcends the borders of Maryland's political and social landscape. And that's considering everything going on beyond as well, whether that's DC, whether that's, just outside of Maryland. Now, I want to focus on a big part of that influence. Um, I know you've placed a lot of focus on developing and creating resources where all youth can take advantage, whether that's the YET program, the YES program. Um, my question is what role do you see a large part of our audience, our young people, playing in local government, and how can students and youth better engage in civic life?
So, as you very astutely noted, Howard County is critical to our state, our region, our nation. Howard County is the only county in the state of Maryland that doesn't touch a body of water or another state. We're about equidistant from Baltimore and DC, and we have numerous resources such as, frankly, being the cyber capital of the world, having almost 300 cyber businesses. And that is more than places like New York, Philadelphia, so many other places. And so we do play a bigger role throughout the state, the region, and the nation, and our young people. You
Mhm.
all can be the leaders. And leading time, oftentimes people think about what is splashy. It sometimes feels good to protest, to fire off an angry email, to post something on social media about what they should be doing better. But if you care about the environment, plant a tree. If you care about the future education, mentor or tutor a young person. If you care about a particular piece of legislation, go out and testify. Come up with solutions that actually can be implemented and then be part of the implementation process. Oftentimes, it's easy to be a critic. And as emerging leaders, more and more, you are going to be the conquerors of the challenges and the problems of today. So transform yourselves from critic to conqueror, from consumer of information to producer of information. Do your research. Nowadays, there's so much literature and there's so much data out there about the things that you care about. Focus on those top one, two, three, four things that are really meaningful to you, that make a difference, that create that spark that when you talk about, you feel the fire. Learn about them, and then figure out how you can be part of a meaningful solution that brings people together. Think about how you would want to be treated if you are the lawyer, the doctor, the judge, the county executive. How would you want to learn that you can do a better job and partner with someone? Would you like somebody to just post on social media, you suck? That's not helpful. But if you write a letter saying, I noted in this policy, you're doing X, Y, and Z. However, looking at this research, A, B, and C might be helpful. I'm willing to be part of the solution. I'm willing to be part of the change that I want to see. Each and every one of our young people who are part of this exchange can be part of the change that you want to see. You can help transform and create the world, not just as it is, but as it can be.
And County Executive, I love how you brought up how our young people shouldn't hesitate to be a part not only of the planning process, but the implementation process as well. I think that's often very overlooked. You know, many young people, from my personal experience, who I've gotten to know, and even myself sometimes, we look at all the nitty gritty, all the documents, all the policy work, and we get kind of overwhelmed with where can we really involve ourselves after the first initial stages of advocacy. And that brings me back to policy and change. They go hand in hand. What's a local policy that you implemented that didn't really necessarily get, all the attention, but you believe really, really made a difference, a genuine change in our community?
Well, I mean, I think, and I kind of talked a bit about it in the last conversation, I think planting trees. Oftentimes, people focus on uh, whether it's a tree that was lost. And sometimes we don't know the circumstance. The tree might have been dying or sick or what have you, but planting trees. Since I've been county executive, we've planted more than 130,000 trees here in Howard County.
Wow.
And that is going to be significant. We often think about the stories of if you want to create shade for your grandchildren, plant a tree because it will continue to grow and flourish and flower and have fruit and feed not just a person, but a family, a neighborhood, a generation. And so that's something that oftentimes people don't focus in as much. But our environmental policy and a lot of the work that we've done around our environment has not only won us national awards, like being the first LEED certified platinum county by U.S. Green Buildings Council, not only winning National Association of Achievement Awards, not only having the largest solar power purchase agreement in the state, but again, saving our future. If you care about climate change, if you care about energy independence, there are ways to make meaningful change. And it's not all going to happen in one day. We didn't get to where we need to make change all in one day. However, we can be part of the solution. You can be part of the solution.
I love how you brought up how solutions don't discriminate, how, whatever age, whatever area, whatever socioeconomic status that you come from, there's always that part where you can chime in and benefit the greater cause. Many of our youth, that's like a central theme of our conversation that we're having. They would love to get involved. They have like you said, the fire in themselves when they talk about these issues. However, they may lack certain mentorship, certain experience, certain people to help guide them into this area. And I know you touched a bit on that earlier in this conversation. I want to know, County Executive, what role has mentorship played in your journey, and how do you mentor others today?
So I have what I call almost like a kitchen cabinet of mentors. I think about the things that are important to me. Being a great husband, a great father, a great elected official, great educator, a great son. And then I find people who I see doing those things excellently. And I ask for advice. I ask for questions. I figure out the best way for them to communicate. Sometimes it's face-to-face over a meal. Sometimes it's phone call, a text, an email. And I ask them questions. I ask them for advice. And sometimes part of that homework is they might assign me a book and say, hey, you know what? Here's a book or an article. Check that out. And then I'll read it, and then I'll come back and give feedback. Hey, I read that. And, the top 10 ways to do X. And way 7 was something that I need to really work on. Can you help? Showing that there's this give and take. There's this iterative process. I'm, again, not just being a consumer of information. I'm producing, I'm thinking, I'm showing that my future is important enough for me to actually make an investment. And if I'm making that investment, then I'm asking you to make an investment. Now, as a mentor, because I think as we climb, we should reach up and lift, climb and lift up that next generation. I try to make time for a lot of my mentees. I talk to them about not just what do you want to be in the future or when you grow up, but even more important, who do you want to be? Sometimes I ask them, how do you want to be described by those who know you? You want to be described as kind, courteous, thoughtful, hardworking. Then what do we need to do to help you earn those adjectives? And so we talk about those things. And there are a lot of young people who I work with and a lot of people who are my age or even older who I mentor, because I recognize that one of the most important and impactful ways to lead is to not just grow followers, but to grow other leaders. And as you're growing in your leadership and you're growing the next generation of leaders, therein lies your leadership legacy.
Cross-pollination, County Executive.
Right.
There have been so many different generations that have passed through this county. Politics have changed over the last very few years in this county. So many different issues, so many different people, so many different demands from these diverse demographics. It can be a challenge at times. And this isn't only just in one generation. This is among Gen Z, the millennials, Gen X, the boomers, whatever it may be. You talked about getting there and lifting the next generation up. However, there is this sometimes stark difference in how we view politics. Youth in my generation often get caught up in a not self-instilled cynicism that comes from our elected officials, for the most part, in the federal government. How we see our voices may often go unheard. How do you see a generational shift in how the youth view politics? How can they become less cynical about the government in serving them?
So we've seen in America probably around the height of hope and trust and optimism in institutions and organizations around the 40s and the 50s. Then during the 60s, the Vietnam era, we have seen a decreasing trust in organizations because, one, which is good, there's been more transparency. And as we've had more transparency, we've seen the flaws in our heroes. We've seen the rise of the anti heroes, like a lot of the X-Men and a lot of the superheroes who we have who, in the 30s and 40s when they started, they were infallible and they were perfect. They were perfect looking and they didn't make any mistakes. People make mistakes. People run organizations. And I think that as we've seen what is now, some might see one of the all-time lows of trust, of faith in organizations and politics, I think recognizing the humanity in each and every person, recognizing, you know what, sometimes people make mistakes. Sometimes when someone has to make a decision, they choose wrong. But guess what? That's everybody. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody chooses wrong sometimes. And there's a reason why rocket ships don't have rear view mirrors, because we need to be focused on the future. We need to keep moving forward. And I think recognizing that we're all fallible, that we make mistakes, and then holding on and focusing on what's the good and how can we, like a seed, plant that good into our ground of community, nurture it and grow it. Sometimes you gotta, get the weeds out. You gotta prune it, but grow the good. And I think each and every one of you can grow the good in you, grow the good in our community, and work with whether it's elected officials, appointed officials who are growing the good. It doesn't mean they're going to be perfect. It doesn't mean you're going to agree with them on every issue or think that they haven't made a mistake or done something that you are vehemently against. But I know, for example, as county executive, I probably got to make 100 decisions a day. And guess what? I'm going to make a mistake. Some of them I'm going to miss. Some of them with more information and time, I'm going to say, you know what, I probably shouldn't have done that. But hopefully, instead of holding our elected officials, our leaders, ourselves to a standard of perfection, hold yourself to a standard of just trying to grow a little bit more good, trying to be a little bit better than you were last time. And knowing that it's okay to make a mistake, it's okay to feel sad, it's okay to feel like you can do better. Because guess what? We can all do better. And together we will.
And in such a diverse county, you mentioned how uh, these values of equity, these values of making sure all the voices are heard is not a, it's not a motto. It's not lip service. It's a value that really is being focused on being delivered. Um, but there are these day-to-day concerns. There's these short-term issues that we have to tackle, and then there are these long-term missions, long-term goals that we also try to accomplish. How do you ensure that equity is instilled in the work that you do on a day-to-day basis, while also ensuring that in the long term, it's something that is viable as well?
I think really listening, continuing to reassess, to reevaluate, to ensure that, guess what we thought was the right course of action yesterday, we got new information. We can do something a little bit better. Making sure that we have all those various seats at the table and people are having an opportunity to be heard. Sometimes we miss things. We have a group in a various community will say, you know what, my trash didn't get picked up. Or, you know what, my school didn't get the books that they needed or the paper that they needed. Or this group of community, they need food and they need access to food. Or longer term, there is an affordable housing crisis. How are we going to address getting to functional zero on homelessness? And these are things that we will make change on, that we'll work on. But again, if we stay data informed, and people driven, we're going to be able to continue to reassess, reevaluate, and have everyone be weighed in. And once people talk and are heard, then we're going to learn from each other.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you how you said really clocking in when people ask for you to, and not only when people ask for you to, but when you have this initiative that you're passionate about, especially for our youth, with so many different things to worry about, from exams to our social lives. Really having this grounded approach to politics and policy is something that that we continue to work on. Now, looking ahead for you, Dr. Ball, you are coming towards the end of this term of your county executiveship. The word legacy comes to mind. You know, when you reflect on your work so far, the people you've met, the stories you've heard, the work that's still left to be done in this year before the next elections, what kind of legacy do you hope to leave for yourself in Howard County?
Well, of course, I could look at things like planting trees or becoming more energy independent or new school buildings that have opened, like our Guilford Park High School or the new Talbot Springs, or the businesses that have flourished. But frankly, I think the legacy that I would like to lead and leave is that each and every person feels a little bit better. They feel a little bit safer. They feel a little bit more heard. They feel like in Howard County, unlike maybe some other counties, that no matter what their background, they're not just going to be acknowledged. They're not just going to be okay, but they're going to be celebrated. You're going to be celebrated for being who you are and being the best version of yourself. And you are going to have a foundation, a strong foundation upon which you can grow and reach for the stars.
In county executive, as someone who has grown up under your terms in county executive, I have a natural curiosity for what our great county executive is going to do after he comes to the end of his terms. And I know many people are curious as well. Do you know what direction you're going in? What's next for you? What's next for Dr. Calvin Ball, or is that still something that's in the air?
So April 2026 will be 20 years for me as an elected official, and December of 2026 will be the end of my last term as county executive. I feel like we made a difference, but being elected is like being in a relay race, and it'll be time for me to pass the baton to that next generation. I want to finish strong. Don't want to focus too much on what's ahead, because then I'll miss the magic of the moment of today. But I do want to make a difference. I do want to do something that is meaningful. I do want to do something that not only taps into my talents, but also still helps make people's lives and our community better. I don't know what that is yet, but I hope to figure that out well before December of 2026, when I sign off as county executive, but still hopefully help the next county executive, the next generation of elected officials, and our emerging leaders just like you.
It's amazing. And on a more personal note, I know as a young person, we've continued to face everyday challenges. It isn't always the easiest to feel like you belong. And I know you can relate as well. You navigated a journey of being the first in many, many spaces. In 2018, you made history as the first African American elected into the seat of county executive. But your seat in office wasn't marked significant because you made history, but because you genuinely showed that you were the best for the job, that you did fill the seat well. And I'd like to flip the script a little bit as we wind down. For our youth out there listening, can you give them one message on what makes a leader that is not only trusted and hardcore fit for the job, but genuinely loved and adored by the people that they come across?
Oh, thank you very much. First of all, I want all of our young people to know that while I am in a being county executive, I know what it's like not to belong. I know what it's like to not feel comfortable in your skin or your space. And I know what it's like to second guess yourself and your place. But guess what? You're here for a reason. You have a purpose. And even if you haven't found it yet, it's okay. You know, as a young person in a world where right now the average life expectancy is almost 90 years, you got a long way to go. You don't have to have all the answers. And so what I found is when you're uncomfortable, if you know that it's the right thing to do, still lean in. After you lean in, make sure you recharge. I'm an introvert by nature. And so that means that while I love people and I love to serve, I still got to recharge sometimes. Sometimes I can't go to every event, whether it's because my schedule is booked or just don't have it in me anymore. And that's okay. It's okay for you to be who you are. Just work to be your very best self. And to all of our leaders, the most important thing that I have found is lead with love. If you love your people, then you will make sure that they, in turn, will love you.
Dr. Ball, thank you again for joining us. I love how you lead with heart and with vision. I'm genuinely excited to see how you continue to define why Howard County is so great. Thank you again.
Well, thank you. Make a magnificent rest of your week, everyone, and keep moving forward.